Hello, everyone, and welcome to Groovy Duke, your channel for all things groovy-lang. If you find any of these videos useful, don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, and share so that more people can have a groovy day. Today, we're going to be talking about class beans. So let me get myself out of the way, and we'll go down to the Groovy console. We're going to copy over some Java code for us to look at, and then see how we can do this easier within Groovy. So, if you're familiar with Java, Java has this concept of beans, and this actually is used in a lot of their various frameworks like Spring Boot and things like that, where what you'll have is a class, and then you'll have a bunch of private fields, and then you'll have a bunch of getters and setters, and you'll have a constructor and all that. And basically, this is used a lot for things like database mapping, DTOs, and things like that. And this is considered the proper way to do classes within Groovy, where you'll have getters and setters for private fields. Now, this is very verbose, and the IDE makers have come up with oh, we could just generate all this. So it's like you normally all you'd have to do within Java is specify the fields, and then you can auto generate the constructor and all the getters and setters. But what Groovy did was it took a look at this and said, why can't we get the compiler to do all that? So we can do that at compile time. And if you actually specify like a getter to like override it, then we just won't generate it. Or if you specify a setter or a constructor, then we won't auto generate it for you. But otherwise, we'll auto generate the whole thing. So let's get the Groovy example up here. And we'll just copy this and Control A, Control V. So this is the Groovy example, and you can see that none of these are private, and by default, all variables are public, and classes and whatnot are public in Groovy unless you specify otherwise. And if you're compiling dynamically, it will not respect private, but if you're compiling statically, it will. Things we'll talk a little bit more about in later videos. But anyways, we have all of these properties, and basically, as I said, what Groovy will do is it will actually auto-generate the constructor and all of the getters and setters for you. So what we're going to do is we're going to go down into inspect AST, which will bring up this thing called the AST browser, which allows you to inspect the Groovy code at any point of the any of the compilation phases of Groovy. And as you can see, there's a drop down here, so you can look at what the code looks like at initialization. It's not there, but if you start going through some of these phases, you'll start to see that the code starts to get generated up, and there's at different points things will start filtering in. And all right, yeah, canonicalization, that's where a lot of things come out. And you'll get the final code. So this is the final code that was generated from Groovy's compilations abstract syntax trees before it was converted into the bytecode. So what you can see here is from just our little example code that we have here, this little class. What we have is we have all these private fields. Actually, let me move that over. We have all these private fields, and if I scroll down in here, you'll start seeing the getters and setters for all these various fields. So you can see it's actually generating them, and you can see these are marked with @generated. So you can actually see what Groovy is generating for you. And I'm pretty sure somewhere in here, let's see. Oh, yep, there is the default constructor that you get for free. So if I say close that, and I'm going to take some extra code that I have offhand here just to actually run through this. What I'm going to do is I'm going to create a new playing cards object, And basically, Groovy has this map-like constructor syntax where, I don't have the open brackets as you saw like in within maps, but basically with this paren and that paren, I have essentially what looks like key pair values where these will match up with the the fields or properties actually here. And what happens when you call this is it will use the default constructor to actually create the object, and then it'll call the setters for each of these particular values within this kind of fake map. So that, and basically after I create it, I'm gonna do a print line, and I'm gonna do printing cards dot manufacturer and size and finish, just to show you that this will all actually work, and it creates the object, and I can pull values out. Now I don't have any of these getters and setters within this class, but as you can see, if I do dot whatever the property name, what will happen is it'll actually call the getter that is on that class and return that value. So what I could do is say I wanted to override this and say string get manufacturer. I'm just going to copy it because otherwise I will probably make a typo. But and say I wanted this to return just something else. So I'm just going to have it return something else. And if I run this, I get a compilation error. What did I do wrong? Input manufacturer at line 9. Oh, yeah, that would be why. Doy. So if I run this, you'll see I get something else. So while I'm calling, manufacturer, it's actually calling this get method instead of actually going right at the field. So that's something to keep in mind. So, you can use this dot notation, but it's actually calling the getter, which allows you to do some interesting overrides so that, if you wanted to override something, you could. And that's one way you can do that. But if I want the default, I can just, not have that getter. And if I run it, it goes back to, getting the actual manufacturer, which is in this case USPCC. So that's pretty much all I have for Groovy Beans. So have a groovy one.